Get this set up. Just give me a second here. All right. Hey everyone, Chris Gogolin here doing a replay review of one of the OCS playoff games. This game took place earlier this morning between RLMD and Steviegets. They jumped on a few minutes early before I had everything set up, and then for some reason my microphone stopped working. And by the time I got it all fixed and figured out, they were already a few turns into the game, and I'd already missed quite a bit of what was going on. So I had just recorded the game, and now I'm going to watch the replay of the recording, and we'll do some commentary and stuff over that. So that way we can, preserve it for posterity's sake. And again, we're trying to make sure everybody's got the same information available moving into round two. So we'll go ahead and get this going. I should preface this. This was a long game. These guys, it was definitely a very methodical back and forth match, and I think this took like 2 hours for them to play. They went like to the full the full limit of jump to get this game completed. So I'm gonna try and speed it up where I can, just to move along a little bit. Um, but again, it's a replay I recorded, not necessarily the same quality as if I was watching like a jump replay link. Which I could probably get from one of them and make this easier. But since I have this, I want to just get this out there for everybody so they have the information available. Steviegets is playing Old Allies. He started a Brave Resistance, Strike Planning, and Wackling. And he's playing against RLMD, who's playing I Want That Map with Bow to the First Order and Alert My Star Destroyer. Stevie took General Leia and General Calrissian. And that's a little bit of audio that I guess did work this morning. For some reason, it wasn't showing up on my computer as it was working, but I guess maybe it was working this morning, and I just either didn't realize it or see if I can find a way to mute. There we go. So I'll mute that because that's me babbling this morning. While I was trying to get it set up, I was also working at the same time, working from home. So it was going to be tricky to get it all pulled off. So we're just going to call him Ross because RLMD takes too long. So yeah, he's going to use Starkiller Base. He's going to get his sight out. He gets the shield control sight out. If you see an extra pointer around there, that's of course that's me, messing around with trying to get my just adapter or audio settings to work this morning, which apparently was working, but I don't know. Didn't tell me that it was working or sound like it was working. And I tried to listen to myself on Twitch, but couldn't hear it. He's going to deploy a first order trooper to the Jakku site. He's going to use that to get a Jakku location out. I would assume he's going to convert one of the. Well, there's no shipyard. So I assume he's going to convert the system just to force choke his opponent a little bit. It's one of the downsides to the plus and bonus is a map in this matchup, this interaction. Dark side usually gets to convert the system. Light side usually gets to convert the village, though. I know in like some of the CRV decks or like the Bring 'em Before Me Skull deck, where you're doing other first order starts, where you just get this site and not the village, then you can pull it and convert their, so you convert both their locations and deny them some force. But he's going to get the other Starkiller base site out as well, so he's giving his opponent plenty of icons, so converting isn't a huge swing. Plus they're going to start getting more force for Brave Resistance, and they're going to get at least 2 other locations out. So I don't know that force activation is going to be a problem for either player this game. Snoke comes down. Snoke's going to get a used pile pull. It's a fairly aggressive play, but not terribly aggressive, because we do know that what Old Allies wants to do is they want to get Lando and Rey on the Falcon, get that going. Rey was the agent that he chose. that Steve chose to use. So Ray's going to be the one who's going to want to try and keep alive and at a battleground site, but she doesn't work when she's inside the vehicle. So Steve will activate 8. Use Brave Resistance. He's going to put a Rose back and upload somebody better. And he's going to take his time and go through his deck, of course. That is correct. This is not a live match. They played it this morning. They played about 10 o'clock this morning. As you can see, 10:30 a.m. was when they played it from the recording time. But we didn't have time to get commentary and stuff set up, so we're doing the commentary post-mortem. Gets out the site. We expect to see Ray to the landing site, General Calrissian aboard the Falcon, Ray will move over, and the Falcon presumably will take off. Not always, though. Sometimes they just flip it into vehicle mode and leave it on the ground. With this much force and the finalizer pull, it's more likely that it'll stay on the ground. There was also another OCS game played earlier today between No Limit and Darth Link. I've asked them for their replay link, so hopefully we can get that and do another commentary video of that. And then I believe there's another game being scheduled for tomorrow. So we should have quite a few, and there's games on Sunday as well. So there should be quite a few OCS games being played this weekend, and we may not be able to live cast all of them, but we'll certainly do our best to give you guys as many videos as we can. Okay, yep, so he pulls Ray from reserve deck, gets a card from used pile. He's got Lando out already. Pretty typical old allies start. Oh, he's going to put Radis down as well. Okay. Radis could take the Corvette into hand. Usually they'll see him play like a non-unique. Very few people play that light maker because it can't hold any passengers or pilots or anything. He's going to draw the bottom card from his force pile. Just trying to get whatever help he can. I guess Radis is partially just some forfeit fodder here in case he would have his immunity cracked if Ross came down with any characters. Kylo plus Phasma and a trooper or two or something like that. So just want some extra forfeit so he can try and keep some stuff alive, especially because Radis deploys for free, so there's really no harm there. Can fish out the Corvette and if you need to, just shuttle him up later or ship dock it when you take off in space. He'll take the non-unique Corvette with Radis. And we'll see if either player wants to pull battle loader in this situation. Nope, he's going to get a drain for 1. Okay. Top decks to keep your eyes open. That's about as best as I can get. Okay. he's going to match Finalizer with Alert My Star Destroyer. It definitely makes it a risky play trying to take off or anything like that for light side to contest in space. When he's getting 14 force and you can spend 8 on Finalizer and Hux, and presumably also, well, he wouldn't have flipped if he was in space, but he could have found a way to control 2 battleground sites or something like that. Just put a guy down and then flip, and then you got to pay to draw Battle Destiny, and it'd be tough for light side to deal with. So definitely the wiser course of action was staying on the ground for now, and they can set space up a little later. You get 8 cards in the use pile to pick from. There's a pretty good shot at between that and his hand at pulling either Hux or an Imperial Command. Looks like he did get Imperial Command. I would expect that to get grabbed. The only card you presumably would want to grab in this matchup would be Trooper Assault or Imperial Command, and I feel like Imperial Command is the one that hurts light side more. And he'll get PV. PV will come down for 1 more force. So it'll be a nice power 16, immune to less than 8. Excuse me, Finalizer. Which means light side's really going to have to overcommit to space to battle that. And then, of course, with Alert My Star Destroyer, he's very likely to be running Thrawn Chimera for a backup ship, which we could also see get matched up for 9, 4, 13, 11 for 11 force. That'll be 12 power and an extra Battle Destiny. Oh, he's got strategic reserves out already. Okay. So it looks like Darkside's in a pretty good spot here, off to a good start. They'll pull Battle Order to slow Lightside from draining down. They've got the high ground, literally. Sight and System. Oh, and Justice. Let's see what 3 cards get stacked there. Lateral damage could be huge in this match. Always thinking with your stomach. Highly unlikely to see much play. FN 2003. Yeah, always thinking with your stomach is one of those cards that certainly has a surprise factor to it, and seeing it just sitting over there. Plus, Old Allies is a deck that typically runs a lot more vehicles between the Falcon, Dash and Rogue 1, or Dash and Rogue 10, whatever. And then Rogue 1 or Rogue 3 for Wedge and guys on the ground. So that's a card that's probably unlikely to get used much. But Ross will go ahead and he'll just start drawing a few now. Just trying to get some stability. He's off to a good start, and he doesn't want to give Steve too many opportunities to get back in this game. I know Steve did admit that he has not played this deck much, if at all. So I'm sure that's also part of what is going to make this game more methodical. Excuse me, it's been a long day. Gonna try and speed it up a little bit where I can, because I know that this thing runs like 2 hours, so I know you guys don't want to watch 2 hours while they're just thinking. Or while he's pulling a site. Oh yeah, the only site in there he could get was the village, which he had to convert, which now makes this a bigger drain. Which I know from reading the chat Steve was not happy about. just typed in the chat after about a minute and a half thinking, because that wasn't the site that he wanted to pull. That's not the site I was looking for. You got Jedi mind tricked by your own deck. Yeah. He's going to get the Rebel flight suit on Rey, so she'll add more power and maneuver. He dropped the Corvette. He dropped the Admiral's Order. He's got Poe on the Corvette. I wouldn't expect him to battle. Now he'll probably take off. Oh, he's got Solo as well. Okay. So he's got Rey and Lando piloting. Flips the Falcon. He's got Solo and Radis as pilots. So he's going to take off. He's going to ship dock. And he's going to move Radis over, make him a pilot, but Radis doesn't add anything while piloting. He's just adding ability, and he's another admiral, and then he'll move Lando over as well, and then kick Solo from a passenger up to a pilot spot. So now Lightside's in a pretty good spot. They've got, he has me checking out the pilots here. He's got Lando, he's got Radis, who doesn't add, but he's an admiral, so that lets him play Rebel leadership. That would let him limit Darkside to one battle destiny if he doesn't pull Justice or something. Like if Darkside played Command to limit Lightside, then they could leadership to limit Darkside. But we will get a drain of 2 from Ross. He's going to top deck a Jyn Erso, and I'm getting kind of good at this. It's the battle interrupt that if Poe and Rey are with Finn, adds to battle destiny. Gonna go look for a Starkiller base site. And none there, so I think these are the only 2 he's playing. I'd be surprised if he was playing any others. Most people, these are the only ones they play in their decks. On rare occasions, you'll see people using the interrogation cell site, but that one's kind of fallen out of favor. It's not really necessary. It's just one more location you have to defend. Now it looks like they did extend their timers, which I'm not sure about. We'll have to check into that. If that was part of the rules of the OCS or not, that somehow may not have transferred over when we did the playoffs. But they both agreed to it, so it's not like it's a detrimental kind of thing. If they want to play a little longer, that's really more on them for spending more time. But just something I obviously will double check with the rules and just see if that was allowed. Because it was supposed to be disabled, I believe. That wasn't supposed to be allowed to have time extensions, but that may have only been for the qualifier games. So he puts Dr. E down, he puts Phasma down, fishes a card out with Phasma, plays Force Push, puts 2 cards back, and lets him fish 1 more card out. And you'd have to believe that the card he got with Phasma is the Force Push based on the way he did it. Otherwise, he would have Force Pushed before he spent everything. And then to Force Push mid-turn like that, he really was looking for something that's in his Force pile. Presence of the Force, converting the Starkiller base into a battleground. That's interesting. Now that it's a battleground, he can move the finalizer over. He still satisfies battle plan. This would now, because the finalizer adds 1 to drains at episode 7 locations, being a battleground system, and adding 1, would now be a drain at 2 here. So it'd be 2, 2, and 2. Certainly good pressure from Darkside. Makes some sense to do that, and that's probably the card that he realized was in his Force pile, and when it wasn't there, when he deployed Phasma decided to force push it out instead. We're also just going to draw a bunch of cards and pass the turn. Alright, so now we'd be looking for Steve to try and flip his objective somehow. He's got the middle sight. He does not opt to pay to drain in space. He's probably going to need as much force as he can if he's going to try and flip. If he controls the system, he just has to occupy 2 ground sites in order to flip. So he could occupy and then consolidate, which it looks like he's probably going to do. He puts Dash down first, puts Lors Antica out, flips the objective. Lors Antica also draws him a card. That's the site as well that Lors Antica is power +4, but he's also defense value -2 at that particular site. He could land the Falcon with Poe, Radis, and Lando aboard in space. That Corvette's going to be fine for a little while, and they can be content just trading drains at 2 in space. Light side, depending on if they hold a second Jakku location, could always use the objective and reduce a drain as well. But they could, move Dash over, land the Falcon, and really consolidate at one of these 2 sites, whether they want to go after Snoke or whether they want to go after Dr. E and Phasma. Snoke's probably the better option. Having Phasma there already is the potential to... Well, you've got the Admiral's Order out, combined fleet attack, which limits Darkseid to 1 Battle Destiny at the related ground sites. So Phasma's not as big of a threat. Unless Darkseid has their own Admiral's Order. Maybe like wear an attack position or something to increase their own immunity and make their pilots deploy cheaper. It looks like he's thinking again. He's just going to move over and land, flip that back into vehicle mode, and then draw a couple of cards. He's got a rescue in the clouds, which he's going to use, and fish out something better. But now Darkseid's going to get, we got drains of 2. Yeah, that's what we're just looking at what that card did. It's the one that gets Finn. We're checking out the Admiral's Order, seeing all its wonderful text. Draws no more than 1 Battle Destiny. So we got a drain of 2 at Starkiller Base. That gets rid of a Hera and an all wings off the top. And then a drain for 2 at the shipyard, which gets rid of their tracking us and a rebel leadership. Can't reduce it because he doesn't control 2 Jakku locations. Oh, he's going to try an Ellis. He draws a 5, though. It's probably still worth it. He's bringing Phasma and Dr. E over. But it is going to be a little expensive, kind of eat into the force Darkseid has available to spend this turn. But now they've got pretty good power. They've got well, they're not going to draw the second Battle Destiny because of the Admiral's Order. But I'm sure we'll be seeing Mr. Kylo here at some point. He's going to look for a location that's not there because he's only playing these 2. He's going to drop Yavin Sentry Shield just to make sure it doesn't load up on free troopers. We've got a Spectre from Darkseid. Here's a Kylo Ren from hand. He's going to use Bow to go into the use pile. He's got 12 cards to choose from, and then we'll probably see Oh, well, he probably won't deploy the lightsaber. It's probably going to be a card he's going to have to take into hand. With only 4 cards left in reserve deck, it's unlikely that he'd be able to hit matching for that. He gets the lightsaber out. It comes from hand. He stacks a card just because he can, even though he can never play it again. It still adds 1 more to Kylo's power. And then they'll battle. And Finn gets deployed as a react on the Falcon. He's probably going to use Justice here to pick up 1, so being able to play that interrupt from Lost Pile is not going to be helpful. But he is going to swing. So like I said, it's the site Loris Antiqua's pet defense value -2 at. But per the objective, episode 7 characters that are with Han are defense value +2. So that kind of negates that out. So he's got 4 defense value total, -1 from the trooper, makes him defense value 3. Subtracts 2 from the just drawn destiny, so they're both, so it's a 1 and a 2, so that equals 3, so he's not hit. There you go. There's the, while with Han, episode 7 characters and starships are defense value +2. So Loris Antiqua survives, doesn't get hit. And will keep his 5 power and forfeit available. Darkseid does pick up a card. They pick up FN 2003. Thought they might have gone for the lateral here. Draws a 2 for Battle Destiny. Not going to crack the immunity of either the Falcon or the Speeder, but Loris Antiqua does not have immunity, so something's going to have to be lost. And we get Snap Wexley drawn from Battle Destiny. I don't know what that guy does, I'll be honest. Yep, Lore has no immunity to attrition. So now you're kind of weighing. Ross has 3 attrition. He'll probably just lose the generic trooper. Or Lieutenant Dofeld. One of those 2 guys will forfeit for 3 and cover that. Light side, they've got the option of either losing Loris Antiqua or Finn. Finn having better forfeit, not adding as much power though. Loris Antiqua adding more power, but unfortunately you do run the option with him of him being hit by Kylo and then operated on with Dr. E. Personally, I'd probably lose Loris Antiqua here, just so you've got everything with immunity, because if you're subtracting from Battle Destiny, if you're subtracting from Weapon Destiny to keep Loris Antiqua alive, then you're not subtracting from Battle Destiny, which means that there's a better chance that you're going to have to end up forfeiting something to attrition, because Loris Antiqua is not immune. So you'll end up forfeiting things off your vehicles, which are immune, to keep that guy alive. So I'd probably lose Loris Antiqua in this situation. But I've got a feeling Steve's going to lose Finn. Yeah, he loses Finn. And I'll play a Dark Time to activate a force. Really more just probably looking for getting a card out of hand as opposed to... oh, and because the battle was a tie, Kylo's text doesn't kick in and nobody has to lose 2 force either, so... not that Darkseid would have to lose because of Spectre, but forcing Light Side to lose some extra force. Ross will draw a few more cards, get back up to 12. Got about 17, 20 left down, I believe. It's a little hard to see the numbers on this replay. Sorry. Alright, so Steve can activate. He can drain for 2 at Jakku. Which will probably get canceled with strategic reserves. It does. It's going to happen 3 or 4 times this game at least, I would suspect. Looks like Steve's trying to redeploy. Looks like he wanted to try and move the Rebel flight suit, and it didn't let him. I'm not specifically 100% sure myself about the redeploying a device. I've never tried to do that. Any of you guys in chat know if that's allowed? She can move a device deployed on one character to another. See, we'll try and make this more interactive. Steve's going to control tunnel vision next. It's going to take him a while to figure out what card to grab, so we're going to fast forward a little bit, speed that up. And he finally picks one. He's going to drop Rogue 3 and Wedge. And now we'll see if he's got another pilot to put aboard with the Dash. Or Theranet to go in the same speeder with Wedge. That also works. Ready to draw the bottom card. See, this looks like a much better battle for light side. Now, obviously, they can Justice, so Wedge can't cancel a Destiny. But that's kind of what Steve wants to do, though. He wants to force Ross to get those cards off Justice as quickly as possible, so he can start doing multiple Battle Destiny or Battle Destiny canceling shenanigans. That's his best chance to win this game. Kylo's going to get the swing at Lor Santika again, but he's defense value 4 now at least because the trooper's gone. So maybe he's got a slightly higher chance of living again. There's the Dark Time that he put back. He'll subtract 2 from that to try to keep Santika alive. And now we'll see what the second Weapon Destiny is. It's the card he drew for Battle Destiny last turn, which is a 3 because of Hux. So that would be a 5. He'd have for total Weapon Destiny, which would be enough to hit Lor Santika. Unless Light Side has anything in their loss pile that would modify that. I don't think there's a Wisa or anything in there, or they're there is a they're tracking us. I think he lost that earlier. He lost a they're tracking us. So if he wanted to use his once per game solo, he could do that and keep him alive. And he does. So he does his once per game solo, subtracts 1 from that, making it a 2. Sith Fury would be a bit of a blowout here, but to redraw it. But it's not a card you often see in maps. Sometimes you'll see it, but it's not as common as it is in other decks, because at least the characters in map for the most part are, 3s and 4s, not 1s. So in this case it misses, and Lor Santika gets to live another day, or at least until Battle Destiny is drawn. So he's adding the 5 power. And that's the reason I would have lost Lor over Finn. Ross is going to go look for a shuttle. And there's no shuttle in his deck. I guess he's just cycling another card back where he can track to it. In case he has to swing again the next turn. He'll draw 4 and 3, and then draw 4 for Battle Destiny. Actually, he'll spend whatever the force is that's going to get in between there. It's going to break that up a little bit, but so he'll Justice and pick up a card. See if he gets the lateral damage now. Yep, he does. So that's going to have to make this Corellian Corvette feel a little exposed, because we could easily see Thrawn Chimera come down for 11 lateral damage, battle, pick a card off Justice, or play an Imperial Command to limit light side to only getting 1, and clear all those pilots off pretty quickly. Steve will spend the force because of the objective to draw Battle Destiny. He draws a 4, which becomes a 5. Darkseid draws a 2, which all of their speeders and vehicles would be immune to if Lor Santika wasn't there. So Lor Santika's going to die this time finally, and Darkseid's down 9. At this point, Dr. E's probably not doing a whole lot. Maybe Dr. E and the Lieutenant. Could also lose Snoke. I think Snoke covers 8 or 9. This is probably the best power trade-off. Would be to just lose Snoke. I think that also boosts Kylo's power till the next turn as well. So if we don't see light side move away, we'll probably see light side move away. Especially now that Darkseid has the lateral in hand. It wouldn't shock me to see light side at least consider moving away. Unless they've got up some barriers or something like that to help protect them in space. Speed it up here a little bit while he does decide to lose Snoke and 1. He pitches a Crush the Rebellion from hand. Okay. It's probably the right call there. Snoke's the not really adding a lot of power, and by losing him, Kylo's power +3 until the end of the following turn. So Rey gets out. Now Rey is at a battleground site, so now it flips the objective from the 7 side to the 0 side. Now as soon as Rey gets back in, Darkseid could flip back because she's not present at a site. However, Darkseid does not occupy does not control 2 battlegrounds with First Order characters currently. They will here in a second, though, because obviously the Falcon's going to flip and then take off. And then they'll flip back to the 7 side, and then we'll see if Rey gets back out of Dash and Speeder. Yep. And that flips back to the 0 side once again. And now Lightside has 2 Jakku locations that they control, so they can reduce one of these drains down to 1. And it'll be the drain with Kylo, because his lightsaber adds 1, and that makes it a drain of 3. So it'll be 1 and then 2 there. Steve's going to draw a couple cards. Ross is going to think about how much he wants to activate. Steve plays another Rescue in the Clouds. Trains for 2 at Starkiller Base. Top deck's a Rose. Top deck's a Rescue in the Clouds. Ross pulls Secret Plans because he just saw Rose. Alright, and then he drains here with Kylo, adds one with the Saber. What I was checking on the objective was to see when the timing of that was, because it looked like Ross was going to pass using Kylo's Saber to add one. And it was like, well, if he passes doing that and light side passes waiting to reduce it, but it's at the end, once all the modifiers and stuff, and then you're about to lose, then you can reduce that. So there's no little window in there where light side would be forced to choose to reduce it before dark side adds with the lightsaber. So that's well written. We get Chimera, we get Thrawn. They're from hand, so they cost 13. I'm sure we'll see the lateral come down. Yep. Blanking the power of the Corvette, which was about 12 power. So taking all that down. Now, whether or not Darkseid still wants to battle here, I mean, Lightside is still getting 2 Destiny to Darkseid's 1. 2. They're both getting 2. If Darkseid had a command available, that's a possibility. I mean, Lightside could play a leadership as well if they had it, because they've got Radis. You can pick up that final card off Justice. They could both draw 1. Chimera's immune to less than 6 with Thrawn aboard. Both Lightside ships are immune to 4 and 5. I guess it would depend on what you're expecting. He's going to verify his destinies, see what he's got to work with in there, and then decide what are his odds of at least cracking 4 and making Lightside have to lose something. But he's still thinking. Still thinking, Lincoln. He deploys the Trooper for free. And he's going to shuttle Phasma and the Trooper up. Steve puts Walkling out of play and retrieves Rose. So we're going to drain a 2 on the ground. Could be another Trooper. No, this one's going to go through. Darkseid's got 2 Force saved. This would be a great time for like a Gold Leader and Gold 1 situation, because they're getting 3 Battle Destiny potentially in space. It would have been also a great opportunity to use the Rebel Leadership that's in the Lost Pile with Solo, if he didn't have to use it earlier to keep Santika alive. He could battle here, play that, limit Darkseid to just 1 Destiny draw, forcing them to pull their last card off Justice, which then would open up some opportunities for Lightside in the near future. Taking their time thinking again. Thank God for the fast forward button. That is the benefit also too of the Jump replay link, is that it kind of just cuts out a lot of the dead time. You lose the chat as well, but it does cut down on some of the dead time between actions. but we can fast forward through that. It's General Leia Organa coming down in space aboard the Falcon as a passenger. And Padme is going to join her. So now you got Padme with a Skywalker. She'll add a destiny to attrition. So he's going to think about what his destiny situation is. He's going to battle. Leia's going to let him retrieve 2, which is pretty huge in this matchup. Being able to get cards back is really going to keep things pretty balanced. He gets back Rescue and another copy of Rose, so he gets 2 5s stuck together pretty close to the top of his deck here. Then he's going to add a destiny to attrition with Padme. Ross has another command. Which is what we had speculated was probably going to be the case. He spends his last 2 force and plays that. Limits light side to 1. This is where light side would need a leadership to then limit dark side to 1 to really be in a pretty good situation. Let's see what dark side can muster up here. They've light side drew a 5. They drew another copy of Rose. Ross gets a 3, a 5, so that's going to put him up to 8. He can subtract 2 from it, bring it back down, so he's got 6 total right now, and a third destiny on the way is a 4. So he's got 10 total. 10 for light side is Lando Radis. Radis isn't doing you a whole lot right now. Oh, he's going to Jedi Lev Padme. He might lose to Padme then. Padme Radis would cover 10. And he'll get a 5. So that's going to be 10 that dark side has to lose in attrition. They can try and retrieve a trooper, but I don't think there's any troopers in there for them to retrieve. Oh, there was a first order guy in there. No aim high from Steve. Oops. That would have cost him 1, which he wouldn't have had any force left to use, but oops. We've all done that. Steve pitches Lando. It's probably going to have to be Thrawn in the trooper. Yep. There goes Thrawn. There goes Radis with no destiny left. The Corvette can't even move over and try and break the lateral damage. So it looks like everybody's just going to have to stand fast. And Phasma, it does also get lost. Okay. Like I said, doesn't really have much force left to move or do anything with. If they want to be able to reduce the drain, though, we might see Wedge move over, move Rogue 3, or move Rey. Move Rey over here, move Rogue 3 over here. Probably Rogue 3. That'll get him to controlling 2 Jakku locations, so then he can reduce this drain to 1. Looks like he's going to think about that option for a little bit. Let's see whether he wants to do it or whether he wants to. Rey gets in, he moves over, Rey gets back out, So we get the objective flips and then flips again. Alright, so he takes everything with it. And he's going to ship dock. He's going to move Poe over to the Falcon. Since the Corvette's lateral damage, he's not adding any power, so Poe's going to add 3 more power. Loses the immunity to attrition on the Corvette by doing that, but does get 3 more power out of the deal. And we're at the halfway point of this game. Oof. Thank you guys for sticking with it. Looks like we're up to about 80 now. Awesome. Alright, so we get a drain of 2. He top decks a leadership and a barrier. The force he spent to move around. He reduces the drain to 1 because he got the 2 ground sights and pitches the extra pad made from hand. Mitaka uses his relocate text and moves Kylo over here in front of Rey. Gonna try and hit her and take her off the table. There's FN. There's a second Phasma. And with Leia on the table now, the Admiral's order is suspended, so Darkseid can get multiple battle destinies. And I'm sure these are cards he drew last turn. Should be the Ellis and the Trooper Assault. That's going to make sure that Rey gets hit. It's going to take Rey out of play here. Well, not out of play, but off the table for at least a turn. And Lightside will have to lose a force. See what they've got left in their hand. They might want to pitch or top deck something. Loses Rogue One from hand. Okay, interesting. It's not usually a ship we see too often, but Radis does pull it, so that and the Corvette. So if you happen to get one of them, you can pull the other one. Draws FN for Battle Destiny. Which gets reduced to 1, which Dash is immune to. Oh, and then he draws a Kylo behind it. Kylo's only a 2. So he's got 3 total, which Dash is immune to, and gets a 5 at least for Lightside. And then with Rey adding 1, it makes it a 6. So they tie. So Lightside doesn't have to lose any extra force, which is advantageous for them, and don't have to lose Dash either. And now they're sitting here looking at 6, trying to figure out what combination of characters to lose. Lightside has to lose Rey. That's going to flip the Darkseid objective back. But then it's either lose Kylo in the Saber, and then just use Spectre and take Kylo back into hand, or lose both Phasma and the FN Trooper. If you lose Kylo, Phasma and the FN Trooper can't stay there, I wouldn't expect. They'd probably have to shuttle up to the Chimera. Since that's not getting a Battle Destiny right now. It's just a generic First Order Trooper up there. The other option would be is to lose Phasma and FN, keep Kylo there, and then just move the Chimera away, or move the Finalizer over. Ross is talking about in chat about being unlucky because he didn't even crack Dash's immunity and didn't win the battle, and Steve's saying he'd rather be lucky than good, which is pretty. sometimes luck is all you have. He's going to go ahead and lose Kylo. And then he'll pop the Spectre, take Kylo back into hand. Steve does finally pull aim high to stop the trooper retrieval. Phasma and FN do shuttle up. It's going to give, and Finalizer does move over as well. Okay, so he's really stacking up the system now. Alright, so from light side this turn, we've got drains of 2 and 1. May get canceled by a trooper, depends on Ross drew 2 cards, whether or not he's got one in hand now. Steve's got 4 cards in hand, probably can't attack Dr. E and Mitaka with just those 4 cards, and knowing that Kylo is floating in Darkside's hand. That could also influence his options. He drains for 2, it gets canceled. He drains from 1, pitches a Mitaka from hand. So now you know he's got Kylo and a trooper available. Oh, there's an Anakin Skywalker sighting. And a second copy of Rey. Alright, so that's going to flip Darkseid back to the 0 side again. That has some big benefits. Light side doesn't have to pay to draw Battle Destiny in certain places. They also are able to retrieve now, so if when they do initiate this battle here, they would be able to retrieve 2 cards with General Leia. Also keeps them from playing any interrupts from their stacked card, but I might need to have Kylo to be able to do that. Alright. He retrieves the Rebel flight suit. He retrieves the other copy of Rey. That could be important later with Rey being the agent. So that's definitely a good battle. And with Anakin adding 1 to the Destiny and Rey adding 1 to the total, if that's the 5, Rescue in the Clouds, that he drew earlier, that would make it a 7, which would clear both guys. So Ross does pick up the last card off Justice, so he can try and keep this to just being a 6 total for light side, which would just get Dr. E, and would leave them at least 1 more character on the ground. Keep from having to pay to drain if the Falcon and the Corvette move away. He plays Cold Feet to play a shield. He pulls Code Clearance. I guess if it's gonna stop him from Jedi Leving to retrieve anybody, but I don't know. It's a free shield. I'm sure there's not really many that he wants. So yeah, so it is the rescue that he does draw, which is only going to be a 6 total, which will just get Dr. E. Light side draws a Force Freeze, which is a 5, which is a lucky draw for them. And he does not subtract 2 from that. He's flipped. He's got a First Order character there. I don't know why he didn't subtract 2 from that, because if he subtracts 2 from it, they're both immune. Anakin's immune to less than 4, Rey's immune to less than 6 on Jakku. Maybe he was thinking he doesn't have any Destiny left, so he's not going to battle in space. I'm not really sure why he didn't subtract right there. Oh, evac control. Yeah, he picked up a card. Duh. Right. We were just talking about that. Sorry, like I said, long day. Thanks, guys. Yeah, he just picked up a card. That was probably the other part of why he picked up that last card, so he wouldn't be able to subtract. So, smart play. Corvette moves over. Steve has verified Ross's deck a couple of times. We know he's not playing the shuttle. Even if he did, I don't know who he'd really have to put on it. Dash moves over to back up Ray. We'll see where the Falcon wants to go. The Falcon's got to go somewhere. The Falcon can go here to back up the Corvette, or just to hold the battleground system and force Darkside to move some ships back. Or the Falcon can land. Just making sure you guys are paying attention in chat. You guys are all so quiet. He moves the Falcon over. And then moves Wedge over as well. That's interesting. Ross has a Trooper and a Kylo. I don't know that you would need Wedge to go with that. But hey, you never know. Yeah, it's got Presence of the Force on it. And this is game one. They only played one game so far. Looks like the text is actually a little too long, got cut off. But it's there. It'll probably be on the regular stream video, easier. So he gets drained for 2. He top decks that Snap Wexley guy again and a perimeter scan. And now he's got to figure out what to do with Mitaka here. He's got plenty of guys aboard that he could shuttle down. He could shuttle down Phasma and some of the troopers. Move Chimera, Finalizer back over to Starkiller base. That'd be a pretty big drain if he doesn't, so unless he's got a trooper in hand to cancel it, I've got to imagine that we're going to see him have to at least block that in space. Because the question is going to be is what else he's going to deploy on the ground. He could put Kylo on the ground. He could shuttle Mitaka up. Put Kylo at one of the other sites. Nope, he's just going to shuttle. So he shuttles Phasma down. Light side takes their window of opportunity to cancel the lateral damage by drawing a 4. They bring Phasma, they bring the troopers, and then he's just going to draw a bunch of cards looking for another first order trooper to cancel this drain over here. He's got a much bigger hand now as well. He's got 12 in hand. He's got about 11 left down to 15 here, but we've got 26 total to 18 total. So certainly okay on life force for both players at this point. Still have plenty of options. He did not find a trooper. Wow, that's a drain of 3. That got through. I was not expecting that. He lost Evader Monarch to the drain of 1 at this site. Then it's a drain of 3 here because of presence. So we're getting a trooper assault from hand. A Gick combo from hand. And he's got to think long and hard about that third card. Yeah, I'd say map has a slight edge in this matchup. Looking at the chat, that's your question there. It's not much, maybe 60-40. Um, usually they're pretty close games. Um, it comes down to a couple of key interrupts and things like that. Like if, Lightside had a leadership or two at the right times in some of these battles so far, they really could have swung things differently. They had forfeited differently a little bit earlier, and then being able to use the objective more effectively to keep their stuff alive. Lightside just usually just has uh, a little bit. Dark side's options are just a little bit stronger than light side's usually. So usually it's a slight favorite for map, but a skilled old allies player hitting the right draws and things like that, and depending on the build as well, because there's good lots of variance in old allies builds with interrupts and things like that. You'll see the same core characters and ships usually. A well-timed gold leader in gold 1, if you're playing it, can certainly clear some stuff out in space. So there are, depending on the build, certain ones do hold up better against each other. At the same point in time, if map is playing blasters, they can start shooting some of these vehicles, or at least shooting at them. And then adding additional battle destinies with like blast points and things like that can certainly get through. So, again, depending on the variations in the different builds between old allies and map, you'll see different success rates. Let's go ahead and speed this up again because it looks like he's just stuck thinking about what to do. He drained. He got the drain through. Now what do you do? Can you race? Puts Cornhorn over here on the Corvette. So he's got an additional pilot there. And he drops Rose. So Rose will let him start retrieving. Ross does still have a pretty solid hand, though, with eight cards in it. So I don't know that you can afford to play too loosely with your characters on the ground. He'll go ahead and move both ships back over, block the drain at 2 at Jakku. He still has a drain at 2 at the middle site, unless he wants to move his pile of guys over. Not sure that's the best option, though. He's going to opt to draw a couple cards instead. I like that play. I think that's safer. We know he still has the Kylo. You don't want to take unnecessary battle damage. You might have a second lightsaber, and then he hits somebody. By keeping Rey on the table and alive and keeping the objective on the 0 side, it gives light side more options and ways to manage the game, especially with Leia. Allowing that 2 retrieval without Leia doing that and keeping things competitive. I feel like things could get out of hand and pretty quickly. So like I said, we're still in a pretty tight game here. So these guys have been playing quite a while. There's a drain at 2. There goes a leadership from hand and a barrier off the top of reserve deck. Leadership's not very helpful because Radis is already dead in space, and Lando's also dead, and Leia's in space where generals do not work with leadership. Darkseid checks their objective looking for a Star Killer site, and they've got another Kylo and lightsaber. So yeah, so moving over in front would have been very risky and totally would have backfired. So definitely a good idea not to do that. Keep the fight on your terms. That's also nice. Now they've got drains of 3 and 2. They've got to force light side to get another Jakku battleground here if they want to be able to reduce anything. Mitaka moves over, shuttle down. Where was Mitaka? Mitaka moved over, and then both ships run away. Interesting. Well, he doesn't have. He's got Poe there. It'd be a second Battle Destiny, but Steve's gonna rescue in the clouds for like the 5th time. Still hasn't grabbed anything. I'm not quite sure what card he's waiting for, but he just keeps letting his opponent track 5s around. And get better cards in his hand each time he does it. With only about 10 cards left at this point, you're kind of just like, you kind of want to grab anything you can, right? Now maybe he's verified and seen something else in there that he is waiting for an opportunity to grab. And we've already seen 2 leaderships go. We've seen a couple barriers go. There's no R2 or anything like that we're doomed to be effectful. But maybe he's seen something else that he's waiting on. Maybe he's just really saving up that force. Train a 1, pitches a P-59. Train a 2 at the system. No trooper yet again. I guess Ross isn't playing that many troopers in his build. He top decks a trooper. Oh, there was one. And top decks a Krennic as well. Light side gets to retrieve one with Rose. Gets their barrier back. Someone like Chewie would go a long way here, but with no force save, definitely not battling this turn. Looks like Ross has about 8 force left down, 5 in hand. Be curious to see if light side. They could take Wedge, move him in front of Kylo. And then they could like put Rose in the speeder and move over here to like this Jakku site, because it's pretty unlikely that Darkseid would have much else left to deploy. Like they've got Odd Trooper here who's ability 1, one of those FN guys who's ability 2. It's like the 5s or whatever. You know, there's not too much else left. You'd look for light side to try and find an opportunity to maybe spread out and just kind of stretch some extra damage here. If they could also simultaneously block some damage. And Rogue 3 in front of Kylo seems like the best way to do that. Then, of course, you could use Mitaka's text and bounce Kylo away. So unless you're going to move everybody over, that might not be the best idea. Tough call, tough spot, trying to figure out exactly what to do here. But you do know you're looking at things. You're looking at 2, 3, and 2, which you can't afford to eat all those drains. So option B would be landing the Falcon. You could land the Falcon here in front of this big drain, leave everybody stacked up here, and then that way if Kylo does bounce over, Kylo's looking at a much scarier field. Oh, he's got Cassian. Okay. Cassian can cancel a Battle Destiny. Or Weapon Destiny. Put Cassian in Dash and Rogue 10, leave Rey outside, move Wedge over, and then when he bounces over and swings at Rey, Cassian could have canceled that draw. Oh. He said he's going to play it this way. Okay. He'll land the Falcon at the Drain 2 location. He can reduce this 3 because he's got the system in the site. So just ignore me from a minute ago. So he's got the system in the site. He can reduce this to 1, or he does move Wedge over. Okay. And he's got both ships there. See, I'd like this better if Cassian was in Dash in Rogue 10, if he was the pilot here. Because then he could, when Kylo moves, he could cancel that. Oh, but he's moving Dash over as well. wouldn't surprise me to see we're also going to activate 5. He drains for 2 over there, gets reduced to 1. He loses a rose from hand. Oh, and he tries to Ellis to bring all the troopers. To take these 3 guys and move them over in front of Ray. And he draws a 5, which is exactly as much force as he has available. Good thing I'm blocking the chat, because that's a profanity that he just uttered, as I'm sure your imagination will allow you to figure out what he just screamed. He's going to have to decline transport and do this the hard way. Now he's going to check and see what 2 cards he's got left in there. He says something about a 7 might have been worse, or at least as bad. Did he just tell Steve he's got a 7 in his reserve deck? Interesting. But now he's only got 2 Destiny left available. He does use Mitaka, and he does bounce over in front of Ray. Which is why I would have preferred if he had left Dash, but there's the free trooper, just for some extra power and forfeit. Darkseid does want to make sure that they win the battle. Will also reduce the defense value of everybody by 1, making probably Ray easier to hit. Steve plays Rescue in the Clouds for like the 5th time. Oh, alright, so he battled. He just drew Destiny. He drew a First Order Trooper. Steve used his objective to reduce it from 4 to 2. And then he Sith Furied it and took it into hand, and then draws the 7. So he did have a 7 in there. Wow. And then had the Sith Fury in hand as well to back it up. Oh, and then he draws the Tantive for Destiny. Ouch. So he's got to lose 2. I would expect him to lose the Tantive to get that 1 out of there. He doesn't really need another ship right now. Lose the Tantive and another card. Oh, he plays It Could Be Worse. Okay, so he plays It Could Be Worse. He loses the Tantive, plays It Could Be Worse, spends his last force to reduce that 1. Unfortunately, at this point in time, that probably is the card that Ross was waiting to grab, but he only has 1 force left, and he's got to do something with Mitaka here, so he can't afford to grab it right now, unfortunately. He's got 2 attrition. That's going to be the Trooper, but then we're looking at 10 over here. Ray would cover 7, so it's Ray and 3 cards, or both characters. Then you have to ask yourself, how long will Rose stay on the table to retrieve any force? Would she be able to retrieve? No, because once Rose is lost, well, if Rose isn't lost, the map doesn't flip, because he won't control 2 locations to flip. So he would have had to peel 3 there, and then Rose would have retrieved one of those 3 next turn. That might have been the better play, because it also keeps the objective on the 0 side, because he has to control 2 battlegrounds to flip. But with only 8 force available, it's kind of hard to afford to keep paying to move stuff around and whatnot. And He's going to stack the dark time. Should come in handy at some point. Seems reasonable. Mataka just moves over back to the crowd of everybody else. Lightshead's got drains of 2 and 1 here. He found a first order trooper. That card I guess he drew. He pitches the always thinking with your stomach. With all these vehicles, it's not really going to be a whole lot of help. And they're both at 8 life force right now. Falcon takes off. Corrin shuttles down. Dash moves all the way over. With only 2 cards in hand and 8 force left. Certainly hard. Wedge moves in front of Kylo. So yeah, so it's unlikely he'd be able to deploy much and battle at this point. So here's where Lightside is going to try and stretch the game and do a little extra damage. Darkside's going to have to do some maneuvering to block some of these. They're just going to activate 5 again. But the dark time should definitely change things. If they remember where their 7 is, that would be even better, because then Kylo can battle, draw the 7, clear both pilots, and play the dark time that's stacked here. Rescue in the clouds again. With only 6 cards left down, 7 cards left down. Still surprised he hasn't grabbed something there. He loses a Jedi Lev from hand. He gets drained for 2. He top decks the Ray that he retrieved earlier that he needed. And a second rescue in the clouds. So he's down to 5 cards left face down at this point now is Steve. Kylo in a well-tracked 7 could be... Oh, he doesn't know where it is. He's looking, and then he's going to shuffle. If he knew where the 7 was, it could have been pretty brutal with a dark time and to prevent destinies from being modified or canceled. But he did not. He'll stack an interrupt. He stacks always thinking with your stomach. To which Steve responds and plays the don't do that again shield. But it still at least cancels a drain for free. Ross deploys the first order trooper off of the strategic reserves, who gets hit with a barrier. One of the cards Steve had left. That's also not grabbed. There he goes. Hey, finally uses the grabber. He does decide to grab it after all. Alright, so at least he grabbed something at this point. Good job. He plays the dark time. He says something about 2 out of 3 destinies in his deck not sucking. The trooper gets excluded. But with the cards stacked, Kylo's still pretty good power. He draws the 5. The 5 isn't bad. 5 means wedge. Lightside draws the 4. To which Kylo is not immune. So light side's got to lose 2. They pitch Rose from hand, and it could be worse from the used pile. And then they've got 5 attrition, which is going to have to be wedge. But Kylo is also going to have to die. Oh, and Phasma gets to retrieve a trooper for winning. He's got 3 force left, so he can afford to spend 1 to retrieve a trooper. Especially one that's a Destiny 4 and might let him cancel a drain again later. And then he's got to figure out what to do with this first order trooper. He can move Phasma over to him, or he can move the trooper to the group. I would have done that too. Move Phasma over, you've got good power. They would need to either spend 1 or lose 1 to draw against Phasma. They've got 1 card in hand and only 4 force left. So Theron Net's probably not going to battle here. Oh, looks like he's going to bring an extra guy over to make sure he gets the second Battle Destiny. So he's got 2 Battle Destiny here and none over here, but that's okay because he knows not much going on there. Light side's going to get 2, 1, and 1. So he's got 9 and 3. So he'll take a few more cards off him. Top deck's a Kylo. Top deck's a Force Freeze. Really liking those 3 cards that's in his hand. There's a drain of 1. He's got to pitch something from hand now, right? Keep his differential as high as he can. He can cancel the other one with the Always Thinking. He pitches an Overwhelmed from hand. Interesting. Okay. Then he drains here, and Ross top decks You Know What I've Come For, instead of playing the Always Thinking. Maybe that requires Kylo to be on the table to play interrupts from the objective. I'd have to double check that. Yeah, you gotta have Kylo to play it, yeah. I don't play map very much, so I always forget the specific timings. Thanks for the assist there, Keith. I think he's just trying to maximize damage at this point, so lands the Falcon, blocks the big drain there, probably just moves dash over. It just would be a drain of, he can reduce it, so it's a drain of 1 here. And then it's just about trying to survive. Padme gets out. Poe gets out. That also works. You've got Han and Leia still inside there. Poe moves over. Leia gets out, so he's got more power there now. Is Poe not getting in? He went to draw it. He forgot to put Poe inside. Oops. No, I'm sure it's a strategy. He needs the extra. No. Oops. That stings a little bit. He saved 2 force and everything to be able to spend them to draw both Battle Destiny. And then unfortunately forgot to put Poe inside. And Ross is going to activate all of it. He's going to drain for 2. It gets reduced to 1. He loses his card from hand, which was It's a Hit. And they're both talking about just thinking again. Steve took a bathroom break. And just realized he left Poe outside. Down comes Kylo again. He stacks another interrupt, stacks the Gick. And he's going to initiate battle and play Trooper Assault, even though he has no Battle Destiny left. He's just got pure raw power, 24-8. Triggering, hoping to trigger Kylo's text to make him lose 2, which he should. Ooh, and he finally draws Chewie. So Kylo's going to make him lose 2. So he'll lose Chewie and something else. I can take care of myself, goes off the top from the used pile. And then he's got 15 battle damage here, which is everybody. They just cover 15. So he gets to squeeze out. Looks like he'll get to squeeze out 1 more turn here. It says got 2 force to activate. He couldn't move these guys though. But he does have the Gick stacked, so he can play the Gick with Kylo now that he's back on the table. So, and with no force, no cards in hand for either of them, not really much he can do. So he can drain for 4, taking him from 7 down to 3. These guys were impressed. They had like 18, 19 people watching them most of the game. They felt like rock stars, which they should, because that's pretty impressive, having that many people spectate your game. And then obviously people watching the replay stream and stuff as well who weren't online at 10:30 this morning to check that out. All right, so we get to drain a 1 in. Top deck's a Trooper, gets another drain of 1 in. Top deck's a Sith Fury. He got a drain of 2 in at the system, which was a Trooper Assault and a Spectre. So he's down to 3. Couldn't afford to play the Always Thinking to negate that because he's probably going to need the Gick here. So it's 13 to 4. So yeah, he's going to need the Gick. They don't have enough forfeit to even cover that. So he draws the 5. Can't retrieve with Leia because of the 7 side of the objective. Doesn't have enough force left to do it anyway, but put some more cards in the lost pile at least. And he'll play the Gick and put it out of play to cancel the remaining 8 overflow. That would have ended the game, but he had 1 Kylo left. And with no force left to move, Darkseid will basically just drain for 2 and win. He could reduce it to 1, and then he has to get drained over here as well. He couldn't move in battle, and draw Destiny. Even if he didn't draw Destiny here and just activated both, battled 13 to 4, he still would have had to play the Gick, and then he could have like put people in the Falcon and moved over. But then he doesn't have any force to draw Battle Destiny. He loses the battle and loses the 2 anyway, so it's not like he really would have gained anything or gotten anywhere. Ross will stack a card first with the objective to take one more card out of his lost pile, which is pretty good play when you're counting diff there. And then he'll get the last drain of 2 in and win the game by 3. So pretty close game there. Very well played by both players. A couple of minor little mistakes. But that will end that game. We'll see when they're playing game 2 and try and get that posted and hopefully be able to do live commentary. Coming up next on the schedule, I believe we've got tomorrow we've got a couple games. Should have had this up. Sorry. See when the next matchup is. Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All Stars versus Tom. Should be an interesting game to check out. I'll also try and find out when these guys are playing game 2. No Limit and Darth Link also played today. They screwed up the time zone. They thought they were playing at. It was posted that they were playing at night Eastern Standard Time, but it was actually nighttime Sweden time because it's East Coast versus Europe. So that game actually took place today. I've requested the game links, so hopefully we can get that one commentated and replayed for everybody in the next day or two. And then we've got this game Saturday night. Wise and Profundity are playing Sunday morning. And then we've got Cryptophist and Mr. Yellow playing Monday afternoon. And then Spidey and Silverglen are playing Monday evening. So plenty of games coming up in the next 2 days here. Plenty of Star Wars to watch. And of course, if they're not live, they'll definitely be streamed as soon as possible to get them all up onto Twitch for everybody. But thank you guys very much for watching tonight. And everybody have a great weekend. And stay tuned for plenty of more OCS playoff matches this weekend. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, there was some errata to Agents of a Black Sun and the Shadows of the Empire stuff going on, so be sure and check out the forums to pick up on that information. You can go to Board Index. I believe it's under Announcements. No, it's not under Announcements. I know it's on the homepage. I'll go to the homepage. There's a new article up. Competitive Balance Team announces errata to Shadows and Planetary Defenses. So make sure to check that out to get the current errata, and we'll get some. It's not effective until November 5th, so the first round of the OCS playoffs will remain intact, and we'll get those new slips updated and available and printed out for local tournament month. So thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great night.